Welcome to the Ideal Investor Show. This is the podcast where we help you challenge your mindset and discover where you are. Tired of stories about other people's success? We can help you change your life, determine your time freedom point, and join us on the journey to financial success. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ideal Investor Show, where we bring you great guests that have something to do with passive income, something to do with getting to retirement early, something to do with some form of real estate. And so today we have Luke Van Der Veer, and he is an expert in digital real estate. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, did I say this? Van Der Veer, is that about proper to pronounce?
Yeah,
it?
you're the only person who got it right. Everybody butchers that.
Well, I'm originally from Germany and I grew up pretty close to the Dutch border, so yeah. I should be able to get it at least close. Well, thank you. So, Luke, before we dive into digital rental real estate, tell us a little bit, how did you actually end up into what you're doing right now?
Well, my family taught me the normal path of going to school and work, get a job, eventually retire, 65 or so. And I never liked this idea. I was like, why would you want to work somewhere for 40 years doing the same thing? And that really never sat well with me. So I did it. I went to school and I started doing work and very quickly realized this is not for me. So I need to find something else. And I started going down the path of Googling how to make money online and looking at different opportunities. And after trying a lot of them and failing just over and over and over, I eventually came across search engine optimization. So just that process of taking a website, moving it up to the top of Google so everybody sees it. And I changed the process up a little bit to make it like real estate, because that's something I was somewhat familiar with. Now I rent lead generation websites to business owners to create an income so that I can just kind of do what I want with my time.
Cool. Yeah, and we're going to dive into that a little more. Now, you said, you didn't really like the General Electric regular 9-to-5 or type job. How long ago was that when you started actually trying to deviate from the regular path?
That was, 2016 is when I started doing what I'm doing now.
Okay.
But 2013, I was only into work for maybe a month. And I was like, this is not going to work for me for 40 years. Nope. I was trying to be open-minded and come in like, okay, let's give this a real shot. And I was just soaking all the stuff in, and it was like speaking another language, and school didn't prepare me for it at all. So I was like, what was the point of all that if this is completely different? But I was trying to just be open-minded and sit there and soak it all in. And after about a month, I was like, how do people do this for 45 years? I started talking to my coworkers, all of whom were 63, 65, 67, all nearing retirement or should have already retired. And I was asking them, like, how did you do this? Like, what was your experience? Would you do anything differently? Every single person said the same thing. It was always one of two things. I don't have enough money, so I can't retire yet. Or I wish I had done something differently, built a business, done something else, so I had more time to enjoy myself sooner, because I can't go travel all over the place now. So I'm listening to all this and I'm like, oh crap, I got to do something now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I'm kind of curious because people know that I have Idea Wealth Grower, and I still, to a lesser extent, do the consulting work with my second company. You are obviously now a business owner, and you said just a minute ago, what they were saying and how they were saying and so forth felt like a different language. So now that you basically joined the ranks of business owners, how does the language there resonate with you?
I think that's more company specific. The GE specifically had their own, I don't know how else to explain it. It was like another language. They had like different terms that mean things to them that if you said that to somebody on the outside, they'd have no clue what you're talking about. So it was like learning a foreign language being in there.
Now, you said you went on Google and you ended up looking at SEO and then changed the process a little bit. Why SEO?
I originally thought, okay, I had this vision, have something built that would pay me and I don't have to work. And I was like, I don't know if this is possible. I think it is. Let's try to figure it out. And I thought that it was a money number. And I thought if I just hit whatever that number is, I could buy freedom. That, I guess, simplified way of thinking, right? So I tried looking for business models that would potentially do that. So I was looking at network marketing. I looked at affiliate marketing, all these different things. And I started trying all these. And each time I would make some money, but it was never enough to be able to walk away from a job, or even the one that was. This one was eBay. I was making a ton with that, but I was working 13, 14-hour days. I'm like, this is not, how do people do this and just like walk away without inheriting it from somebody or winning the lottery? There has to be a way to do this. And I found SEO, and it was really interesting to me, but I kept making the same mistake. I built a company. It was the same idea. I had a lot of money coming in, so I could replace a job now, but it's still, all I did was build a high-paying job for myself. And one day I had a client just complaining to me about results, which were actually great. It's just being very ungrateful. And it rubbed me the wrong way. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, there's got to be some way to make this passive, so I'm not sitting here all the time, beholden to the client. And that was just owning the asset. So instead of working on somebody else's website and helping them get all these great results, what if I owned it and I built it for me, and then I could just rent it out like you would do if you had a rental property? So that's where it tied into like physical real estate. And I was like, oh, this is great. I'll just treat it like I'm a landlord. I'll be the digital landlord. And then I have this thing that's generating customers for whatever the niche is that I want to build, and I will just rent the space. So I take over that digital space in Google and I rent it to whatever business wants it. And if they don't want it, I've got a million other businesses I can talk to. And that light bulb is really what saved me.
Right. Okay. That's, in an abstract way, it makes sense. So maybe we can start going into a little bit more concrete. Like if we take, for example, one core component that we are doing at Idea Wealth Grow and that our audience knows very well, our clients, which I'm always assuming are sitting somewhere listening, either right now, and they know. So part of what we do is, on the one hand, finding really well curated performing assets that I help them to actually purchase and get set up and have property management arranged for that same idea of saying, okay, yes, we own an LLC that I call the operations company. And if you were one of our clients, you would have like the Luke Van Der Veer Empire LLC or something like that. And then you hire a lender, you hire insurance, you hire property management, you hire, inspection company and so forth. Once, if you want to have diversity, you might want to hire 2 or 3. And I obviously would help you to find ones that have a history with us and work well. The idea would be, like I do for my portfolio and most of our clients do, we spend 2 to 3 hours a month to check in with the people that we hired. On the other hand, this is kind of like the active part. But then to help somebody who's never really done anything in physical real estate, there's a lot to learn for people also to be comfortable.
Yeah, no, let me tie it into real estate. So, right, you want to get that property inspection. So the business owner who's running the property inspection company, they need leads, right? They need customers. That's the lifeblood of their business. But where do they get them? Normally, a lot of people work off referrals, but you can only grow so much. You're limited by the amount that you get, right? So then they start paying for leads. So they might pay a company like Home Advisor, or Thumbtack, or maybe they hire a marketing company. Right. And they pay thousands of dollars for leads. But they're paying a lot of money out. And then the leads that are coming in aren't great, because a lot of times they're shared with other companies. So, if you pay Home Advisor, for example, you'll pay for a lead, and that same person that comes in says, hey, I need a property inspection. 5 other companies get the same person's contact info, and all of them pay Home Advisor for it. Right. So then they're fighting over that person, and it's like a race to the bottom. So they don't make a lot. So what I do is I'll build a website, say in this example, for property inspection, and we'll just pick an area. Let's say Dallas, Texas. So I build Dallas, Texas property inspectors website. I get it to the top of Google. So anytime somebody searches property inspection Dallas, my site comes up at the top. And because it's sitting there, studies show people just go to the first few results. So people start calling me for property inspection, but obviously I don't actually do that. So I now have the value, though. I have the customers. So now I find a business owner who actually does property inspection in Dallas, and I just talk to them. And I'm like, hey, listen, I have all these customers. If I referred all these to you, would you pay me $1,000 a month for it? $2,000 a month for it? And they're like, absolutely. So I just set it up so that it automatically goes to them, and then I just collect checks from my web.
This aspect of basically renting your site that is generating those leads, It's a differentiator then, if I understand it correctly, that
Yes.
you would only give it to the one, if it were me and I were into a home inspection, so I give you the $1,000, the leads I get are just mine and not Luke selling them to 20 other home inspectors, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. So you get exclusive leads. You can grow your business at your own pace. The leads are better because they came in organically instead of paid advertising, which is kind of like a nuisance. And it's a win-win for everybody.
Okay. And so then can you basically do the same thing, rinse and repeat for, like, going back to what I started with, to say, okay, here I am, mentor business for idea bites grower. Is there such a thing like the SEO, perfect SEO, #1 in Google for real estate mentors or something?
There's a if there is a term on Google that you can search to find somebody, you can do this with it. So it works with any type of business. I'm in tons of niches. I got to be over 100 niches now. It's like, you could do it, all the things related to real estate, right? You could do it property inspection. I could do it for the concrete repair on the sidewalk. I could do it for paving on the driveway, the pool cleaner, the lawnmower for the grass, the lawyers you need for the contract, all of the people, just any kind of business. If it's something you can search on Google to do it, you can bring in the leads, refer it to somebody, and kind of set it up so that you can get paid from generating leads for somebody.
Okay. And when you say you, I guess you would probably be, from a fair relationship perspective, make sure that you're not competing with your own clients, right?
Well, the cool thing with that is there's so many, it can be done anywhere with Google. So you can do it. I mean, I have people I work with in 9 countries now. So you can do it anywhere, and any city, county, state. And then if you look at the amount of niches, if you've ever gone to a website like, say, Home Advisor or Thumbtack, there's thousands of things you can hire people for. And anything you can think of, business service, all of those are potentials in every single city everywhere. So the potential is unlimited. So I'm not ever worried about competition with people because there's always something that I can go into.
Right. No, I understand that in principle. So you mentioned in any city. So the location specificity, is that something important? Because I'm first to admit I have basically no clue about SEO, but it sounds like you're saying it's not just, okay, you are a mentor for residential real estate. That's too broad, right? It sounds like you're saying, okay, you would have to at least say for Ohio or Cincinnati or something like that.
But you pick a local area because if SEO, if you look at it from a national perspective, very competitive because you have tons and tons of people spending a lot of money, a lot of big companies. But in a local market, my hometown, Latham, has like 15,000 people.
Right.
So I can put up a site for pretty much anything and I could beat all of them. But if I scale it up to like nationally trying to compete for something, a lot more difficult. So if you pick something local, it's great. And then it also makes it more passive because you don't have to do consistent work to keep it there because there's no new businesses coming in constantly.
So I guess then this renting aspect is, let's say if we were running like a real estate agency in Cincinnati.
Yep.
And we want to find people who are interested in either buying or investing in real estate in Cincinnati, then your system would basically help. Either you were to build it, or if I were to say, okay, teach me how to build it, and then then I could do it. How is that for like our situation, or does it even work? I'm just trying to learn a little bit here on self since I have you. Well, no, not with real estate, but when somebody asks me, what is kind of like your ideal client? I always say, well, what we found, and this is based on the clients we have, they live in areas that are relatively expensive but desirable. That's why they are expensive, and have jobs that are really well paying, so they have disposable income. But investing in those areas makes no sense because the investments don't perform. So I help them to invest out of state in the locations where you find those well-performing properties. But obviously, they are not really looking in the sense of, I have a business to invest in real estate. They're just individuals with good income that want to invest in real estate. So I guess what I'm asking is, you mentioned so far that you're helping companies who are, let's say, in Cincinnati, and they have a need to find customers directly for Cincinnati. How about when you have would it also work for like what we do, where we are in San Diego, but we basically want to help our San Diegans and everybody else in expensive areas to invest in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's just tweaking the strategy a little bit. So what do people type into Google to find you?
Well, I would guess either residential real estate investing or passive income cash flow from real estate or something like that.
Okay, so this is part of the research. You would go in to do some research on this and you'd see what those words are. And then we'd use that to create a website around it. So let's just say it was real estate investing. We would pick your area. We'd start local, San Diego real estate investors.
Yeah.
And then we rank the site, which is just moving it up to the top of Google for all of the terms related to San Diego real estate investing. So all of those people that have that interest, like your perfect target audience are searching that, they see you. And if you're the top company, that's the one everybody clicks on. There's been studies and studies done on Google and showing where people go, and people just, they're lazy. They don't want to go 10 pages first. Everybody goes to the first spot. So they're just like, oh, this guy must be good. Google put him there for a reason. So you just click the first guy. So if that's you, those customers are now yours, or at least you get the first shot.
That's very cool. Now, since you're doing this, I understand that you started doing it for yourself, but if anybody is listening and saying, I've been looking for a side gig somewhat related to an interest that I have, right? And I mean, we can keep going with real estate because obviously we're hoping that the people listening have interest in real estate and residential real estate investing.
Huh?
Could you describe a little bit, Luke, if somebody were to say, this sounds like Luke could help me to have a side gig in this, not just as an investor, but like passive income occupation. I don't know if that's a term or something like that.
That's how I used it. I sit in both of these worlds now because I use this to replace my 9 to 5 job. And now I'm a business owner that has all this. So the process is pretty simple. What I've done, you pick some ideas of markets that maybe you know people or ones that you're interested in there, and there's thousands you can pick from.
Right.
And you go through against some criteria to figure out which ones have some things I like here. Small population, because that's going to help with the low competition. A quick sales cycle so that the business owner would get paid on it fast. Things like there's not a ton of companies in the area, 4, 5, 6 companies, not like 50. And you choose a niche that's going to work and just kind of look at the results for a city and a niche near you, something local. And if it fits what we have as the criteria and it's a good one to go for, it's going to be profitable. So we build a website for it. And then you have to do some search engine optimization, which I also have as part of my process teaching it. You just follow the steps to move the site up to where everybody can see it, onto that top of the page one, so that it's visible to the customers. And once it's there, now the website's worth money because customers are calling in for whatever the service is that you picked. So now we contact some business owners. And that's also part of my process, how to do that. Whether we're emailing them, whether we're sending them a chat, whether we're cold calling them, like lots of ways to do it. Whether we put up a Craigslist post to find them, that's my favorite. Lots of ways to find the business owners. And then we just have a conversation with them. And I'm picking business owners that I know need it, right? Because if you have a business, say, that's not paying for any kind of advertising to grow, probably not very motivated. So if I tell you, hey, pay me $1,000 a month for leads, they're like, nah, what do I need that for? I don't care. I'm happy here. But if I talk to the business owner that's already spending $5,000 a month on Google ads, or already paying Home Advisor, already paying Angie's List, or dumping thousands of dollars into radio ads and billboards and all this stuff that can't be tracked, and they talk to me, I can track everything. And these leads are way better. So they're going to love it. So I don't have to sell anything. I can give them some free leads. They'll see how great it is. And then I'll just have a simple conversation like, hey, what do you think? You want some more? I can keep this going.
So is that the reason that you would set up the website first and say, okay, well, here are the first 5, 7, 12 people that have shown interest, that they're looking for something. And I'm assuming you have some sort of response mechanism so that they're not just going into the dark hole or something. And then you go and say, okay, I have these 6 people that are looking for exactly what you're offering. Would you like to have them as a client? But you would have to sign up for the service, something like that.
I'm trying to minimize the resistance. If I was a marketing company and I'd approach you like a normal marketing company, what do? They say, hey, I'll help you do this and get you these great results. But first, pay me all this money. Yeah. And I'm not a sales guy. I can talk to people now just by doing this a lot, but I found it easier to talk to people when I already had leads in hand, like customers I could refer, because it's like proof. I don't have to prove anything because I already have it. So now I can say, hey, listen, I can help you grow your business. Here's all the people right here. Test it out. Let me know what you think. So there's no resistance. I'm not selling them anything.
Obviously, especially if you provide them on a golden platter, so to speak. Now,
Yeah.
for somebody who comes to you and says, "Hey, look, this sounds like a great side gig. I want to get in." I have kind of two questions. One, is it really a matter of the localized research, or should they also have some sort of like background knowledge or some kind of like passion about the topic that they're finding?
No, it's completely. I'm in over 100 niches now. I couldn't tell you anything about any of them before I started doing it. So it's all just a very strategic research process going in. It's a lot of Googling to figure out what is this? Does it fit with this kind of process, this criteria? And if it does, then we go for it.
I'm reminded by the old joke for a while when my daughter was getting ready to go to college, and she had such a long list of different places she wanted to check out. And
Yeah.
then, people ask me, "What are you doing on the weekend?" Or like, and I said, "Well, I'm taking Friday off. We're going to XYZ university." And then at some point somebody said, "Well, how come that you're going to these university places all the time?" And I said, "Well, I have the impression we're trying to find a course in underwater basket weaving or something like that." So if somebody is into that and there's a market, then I guess you could do SEO for that, right?
It's always something. If you can search it, you can do it, which is it's funny. People pick some really interesting niches I never would have even thought of, but people find it. And if a business needs it, they need the leads. They got to grow. All the businesses need it.
Right. So I guess then that second part where you help somebody to become basically the landlord of those websites, can they have a business themselves? Like, we go back to the realtor in Cincinnati. They don't really need to Google what they do. They're already doing it, right? Would they also be able to do this for themselves, for their own business with your help?
So the real estate one is interesting because there's a lot of ways to apply this. Are you familiar with the bandit signs that say like "We buy
Yeah,
homes"?
absolutely,
Blah, blah.
absolutely. Yeah.
But those bandit signs, you see those all over the place. What
Mhm,
if you just turn that into a website?
mhm,
So I have websites for this. We buy homes city. We buy homes Dallas. And I'll
mhm.
rank it for that. And people actually search the words we buy homes Dallas because they see the sign and then they're like, oh, I'll just look for it online. And guess
Yeah.
who pops up? I do.
Right,
Or my
absolutely. I mean,
students.
what you just said reminds me old enough to say, okay, that's kind of the transition from having advertisements in yellow pages to online, right?
Yeah, I'm just taking the stuff people have in the real world and putting it online. And
Okay.
all those signs, people post them all over. So real estate agents that are members of the program have done this for themselves, which is cool.
Instead of having the little sitting bench for the bus stop.
Right. I feel like this is a more effective, a more cost-effective use of the time, and it also has a broader reach.
And ultimately, I'm a big fan. It always comes down to the return on investment, right? If you can make a good case. Some people that are listening to us today, because this is a little bit of a different show than I typically do, because normally we dive into we recently had somebody who is helping people invest in trailer parks, right? Or stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Um, I really appreciate that you came on and that we can talk about it, because there is currently, at least in my observation, a situation where a lot of people are holding on to the money that they have,
Yeah.
even if it were enough to do a straight out investment, for example, in a property that we have curated and offer to our community. Partially because yes, the labor market looks good, but everybody feels like how much longer? When is it going to collapse? Right? It's almost like feels a little bit in many areas like a house of cards. And so I'm really happy to say, hey, here is a way where you can maybe make a more stable stool by having two legs or a third leg of income
Yeah.
established. Not only to say ultimately you want to exchange the one for the other, which is why we do direct residential investment so that the passive income can ultimately replace the job, just like what you do. But I
Right.
feel it's a lot of people out there, and I'm suspecting in our audience as well, who say, you know what, if I had another source of income and I could use that for my investments, makes me feel a little bit safer, more content than
Yeah.
taking I really need for my life expenses and scrape something aside to invest. And I'm basically, I mean, I think you would agree, an investment in something tangible typically brings a long-term obligation. And the fear is not so much, I don't want to own this thing. The fear is more, now that I own this thing, And if the tenants don't pay or something goes wrong or my job is gone, then I still have the obligation to pay the mortgage, right? And I always say, the most stable stool that I'm aware of has 3 legs, right? So if you have 3 income sources, you're probably going to be fine. And you can still walk if one falls away, and you can hop around with the second one falling away, right? If you only have one, then it's pretty hard to get around if that has any struggles.
One of the things with the digital world over digital real estate rental over physical that I like is the expenses are a fraction of physical real estate. Because if I want to go buy a property, I might have to put 30, 40, $50,000 down. If I want to build a website, I could do that with $100. If something were to happen to the website, who cares? It's $100. I'll just do another one, right? But something happens to my property, that's a little bit different. Bigger expenses.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good argument to say we should diversify, right?
Yeah.
You want to have different kinds of approaches for different kinds of situations. I would go as far, and not, please don't take it as a counter argument, because I really think people, and I'm actually even tempted myself to try what you're doing.
I mean, I love real estate, so nothing
Yeah.
bad to say.
What I'm getting at is I have seen, because I'm old, I've seen that technology changes a lot relatively quickly, right? Like this whole SEO thing, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but if AGI, not just AI, but AGI is coming closer, is in my observation, when that happens, so that a computer program, basically a neural network-based computer program can think like a human, right? Then a lot of those things where we have to do stuff to gain visibility, in my opinion, it has nothing only to do with advertising on social media, but just in general, will just not really be necessary anymore, right? And so the same thing like the fax machine, right? If you say, oh, I'm the expert in making fax machines or flip phones, okay, that was great for a while, and you could get super, super rich in it, but it has its thing. I don't think the need to have a place where you live is ever going to go away. Having both, having something that is starting at $100 and you can build it into, potentially even replacing your job, and having something that will last the time and you can give it to your next generation. They still need a place to live, and their kids need a place to live, and that will never change. So
Yeah.
I think they have a right to exist both. But you're right. I mean, I would love to have all kinds of your clients who don't know what to do with the next 30,000 and then put them in the properties that we offer.
And this is what happens. People build these sites, and this is actually something I'm working on now, right? I have a lot of these sites. It produces a lot of cash. Real estate's something I've been diversifying into with all of the cash, because it's like, what do I do with it? Absolutely.
Cool. So you mentioned that it's not a 6-figure program to get started with, Luke. So how can people get in touch with you, and maybe if they want to learn how to build this as an additional income stream to learn from you?
Well, I'd say if you can spell my name right, go to lukevanderveer.com. That's just got some more info about me. It's got links to the program if you want to check it out. It's got a whole video walking through the examples of what I've been talking about, so you can actually see it. I think that'll be really helpful. And you can also see some of the clients that have crushed it. I ask people for volunteers sometimes if they just want to share their experience. So some of those are up there too.
That reminds me, I asked you earlier, and I don't know that you said it. So if somebody were to say, okay, April Fools, I start on the 1st with Luke, how long until somebody can actually some return of investment?
The average we've tracked with members is 89 days. So if they're following the system, 89 days to get results, start getting stuff coming in, and then probably another couple weeks to rent the site to a business owner.
Super conservative would be 6 months or something like that.
That's super. That's if they pick something competitive. But if they're following my advice, they're not picking that.
Cool. All right. Any other things that you would like to mention for the audience that they should know before they actually go to your website and book a call?
No, I mean, I think since the topic is retirement, my assumption is that the age of the audience is older. It's not, I will say that it's not just the young bucks doing this. We've had a lot of people come in retirement age and after. I think our oldest client so far is 75, William. And people crush it at all ages, as long as you're open to learning and following a process.
That's a good point. And I know a lot of people in our community of investors who every once in a while mention that they, for example, oh, I really feel like I want to go to Costa Rica for a week. I have a side income where like every 2 months I can do one of those crazy things that I would normally not have money for or want to spend money on. That works too. It doesn't really have anything to do with age. Okay, very cool. So Luke, totally outside of our normal questions on topic, I always ask one or two things at the very end. The first thing is, if you could meet anybody, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
All right. Well, I'm going outside of business. I know people have mixed opinions. I want to meet Tiger Woods earlier on. I want to meet him back when he first started, just to get an insight into his mindset. He's done a lot of things that some people don't like, but I can separate that from the golf. And the amount of work and dedication he put in to do what he did is insane. So to be able to talk to him and get a window into that mindset, I would love that, because I know if I had that, I could apply that to some stuff I'm doing and it would probably make me way better.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I would be curious what you learned from that conversation.
That's right.
All right, cool. Which kind of is a segue to the second question. If you had a time machine, any particular era, forward or backward, that you would want to observe?
First one, I want to go back to college, and I want to start researching what I did after and in the workforce earlier, just so I get to this point sooner.
Okay.
Because I didn't, if I had it sooner, I could have had what I have now longer and just experienced this longer. I don't believe that we're put on this planet to just work forever and die. And that's what our society sets us up for, with going to school and working till 65 and then maybe having some time after to enjoy yourself. I think we should be able to enjoy ourselves the whole time, but we have to be able to build something to do that. And I would love to be able to have that longer. So I would have gone back. And if I get my 2 time travels, one of the things I've noticed with people, not just in my program, but anybody trying to make extra money online, doing some kind of new business or something, their belief in themselves and their ability to do it has a massive impact on them. And a lot of times families and friends, they love us, but they're not always supportive of what we're trying to do. And they'll say, play it safe, because they've been taught the same thing. Like, hey, this is the only path. But I just want to say there's another path. And if I could have, and I've had the foresight to think of this, I would have documented every single thing I was doing from the start, so that people could see all of the problems and all of the people saying this isn't going to work and this is a stupid idea, stay at your jobs, all that stuff, so that they would know that they're not alone.
My brain is sometimes a little weird, and my audience knows this. So when I was listening to what you were saying for both trips, right, your parents would have said, okay, we have had this life, but what you need to know, and what our parents and grandparents kept telling us generation after generation, is pick successful role models, look what they do, and see if there's anything that resonates with you to replicate.
You mentioned Tony Robbins earlier. I'm a huge fan. And I think that's one of the things I got from him, just model success. So anytime I'm doing something, well, right now I'm investing in real estate. I know I don't know it all, because this is not my forte, right? This isn't my area. I just invested $8,000 in a coaching program to learn about that part of real estate investing that I want, because that person knows a lot more than me. They have what I want. So I go find them, and that's going to save me a lot of time. I've learned my lesson 75 times over, so I'm not going to do that anymore, trying to figure it out and whatever. It helps me get what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people in our audience know that I always mention, when I first started getting interested, what could I do to build a safe retirement outside of stocks? Because at the time, stock market had just completely collapsed around the .com bust time. And I looked literally, I mean, this sounds a little weird, but I looked who is successful in my environment, in my area. And I found, just through a crazy coincidence, that Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually one of the biggest residential real estate investors in California.
Okay.
Immediately clicked Terminator. I knew what it is. I knew he's an immigrant. He speaks kind of weird English like I do, with an accent and stuff like that, right? And it turns out, he took a lot of the money, especially when he was young, and just invested it in residential real estate and was secure forever and ever, right? And that kind of stuck with me, right? Now, never got anywhere near to what he was able to build, never made anywhere near the money that he made. But in the sense of, a guy that people only know as Conan the Barbarian was smart enough to do that when he was really, really much younger than when I finally got smart. So it's exactly that story.
I love that. You can learn something from everybody. And I saw his documentary, so I knew he did real estate investing. I just didn't know you were there.
Yeah, just coincidence. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, Luke, thank you so much for being on the show. We will put the proper spelling of the name and the website and all that good stuff in the show notes so people can actually find that. And I'm probably going to come back to you because I want to learn myself a little more on how this stuff works. It's virtual real estate, so I should be interested since it's real estate.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Thank you so much.